My name is Rameen Batul and I am going to introduce the topic which is being presented for the project of article which proposed a proposition for the Wednesday and Thursday section class. Issue statement for the following project is not I have a soul but I am a soul. Options that were proposed of the issue statement are: number 1, is it consciousness that overpowers us? Option number 2, does a soul exist? The group leader is Rabia Usman, and following are the names of the other group members: Umar Nazir, Marwa Ijaz, Mariam Akhtar, Sayyida Zara Akbar, Shanza Aslam, Iman Awais, Rehan Ahmed and Ahmed Judoon. The word soul means the spiritual or immortal part of a being regarded as immortal, while consciousness is a person's awareness or perception of something. In this debate, we are going to explore the concepts of consciousness, the self, and the soul. To introduce this idea, I'm going to elaborate the core of the debate by following words. My spirit moves inside me and makes me feel aware. I feel the sensation of being there, the sounds and shadings. I feel till the very end will my spirit remain. Awareness upholds me through my reality. Deep sleep or anesthesia, for example, is a state of unconsciousness. What befalls my spirit then? Does it leave my body? The spirit stays. Some piece of the spirit rests during the stage, while the other gives energy to my body. Death is the solitary time the spirit leaves the body and gets totally disengaged from coordinating issue. Only and only death will be the point at which the spirit will drop my body to the ground to rejoin the energy of the universe, where all the awareness or all the types of consciousness will be gone. Therefore, the few arguments that arise instantly would be such as: are we ready to accept brain as the be-all and end-all of who we are? Is the consciousness only the feelings, the thoughts, or is it much more? Is the soul only a spirit in our body, or is it the breath of life? Which of these is the reason on which kingdom rise and fall? Is it consciousness that overpowers us, or is it the soul itself?
Note I Have a Soul, but I Am a Soul by Scott Jacobson. Understanding consciousness involves an array not only of logic but also of questions that they pose and the sorts of answer they require. I am Rabia Usman and my favor resides with option 1. Is it consciousness that overpowers us? First, the question that comes to mind with this option is that what is consciousness? How does the consciousness of the relevant sort come to exist? And lastly, why does consciousness of the relevant sort exist? But the most important of all, what is the difference between consciousness and unconsciousness? The divisions among the three are of course somewhat artificial and in practice. The answers one gives to each will depend in part on what one says about the others. One cannot, for example, adequately answer the question and describe the main features of consciousness without addressing the why issue of its functional role. Nor could one explain how the relevant sort of consciousness might arise from unconsciousness. For example, we can say consciousness is everything you experience. It is the melody stuck in your head, the sweetness of a chocolate cake, the throbbing pain of a toothache, the fierce love for your mother. It is the awareness of unique thoughts, memories, feelings, and sensation, and the bitter knowledge that eventually all things will end. But the unconsciousness includes repressed feelings, hidden memories, habits, desires and reactions, memories and emotions that are too painful, embarrassing, shameful, or distressing to consciously face are stored in the enormous reservoir that makes up the unconscious mind. To prove my point second and third, I would say that mastering the thoughts is important. A person needs to have a firm control over his thoughts, which is often difficult and can also lead to overthinking. that can make a person irrational and can cloud their judgment. For example, the people who say spirituality gives purpose to life, but how could this be possible if a person doesn't have firm control over his thoughts or his head is not in the right place? My point 5th and 6th states an individual personality is developed through the experiences he had. These experiences leave an impact on his mind. However, these experiences are often suppressed by his unconscious and emerge suddenly upon encountering another experience of the same kind. Sometimes there are underlying personality traits or individual desires that only occur once the individual stumbles upon a life-changing experience. These incidents are removed from the consciousness and pushed to the conscious either because they are unacceptable to the individual mind or he is simply not ready to accept them yet. However, the unconsciousness, if not intentionally, then unwillingly possesses the ability to empower his mind, because unconscious is your ultimate destiny until you hear the voice of reason. In my point 7, what I mean by amorphous is that everyone has a soul, but the soul is asleep. It is a mind that guides us throughout the day, even at night. The mind is the only power that helps us in decision making and keeps us going in tough situations. Even it controls our emotion, expression, and sensations. For example, if a stranger smiles at us or helps us in any situation, it is a mind that thinks that person is being stockish or offensive rather than being kind. As Carter has said in a book, the ghost, monster, or even dragons they do not exist. This is all possible and acceptable through the awe-inspiring acts of our mind. I would like to quote her by saying, "There is no need for us to satisfy a sense of wonder by conjuring phantoms. The world within our head is more marvelous than anything we can dream up. People have achieved astonishing wonders during their lifetimes, all possible to the power and control of the mind." My point of view should be concluded by the simple thoughts. The center of you, your mind, the focal point of your being, the higher awareness of your psyche, that is the place where the realm of adoration and harmony starts.
According to the argument given in an article which states, "Not I have a soul, but I am a soul," by Scott Jacobson, published in News Intervention, which pushes us to ponder and reflect over the idea furthermore. Therefore, the following arguments are listed in favor of the statement. My name is Ramin, and I'm going to explain and debate on the statement which is, "I am a soul." Arguments in favor. Number 1. Yes, a soul exists. Soul exists because I exist. Soul exists because we exist. That is, I am a soul. Number 2. Soul is not something physical or material. The world we are living in is dominated by the concepts of materialism. Matter is considered to be the end of everything. There is nothing more than matter itself, is what everyone believes in. But soul is not something physical or material. Number 3, souls do not obey physical law. Souls do not have physical properties, therefore it would not obey physical laws. Now, to even imagine something like this is too difficult, let alone seeing it. Number 4, it cannot be seen, only felt, just like our emotions, thoughts, and feelings. Number 5, soul is pure consciousness. Soul is something to be experienced, not seen. We cannot expect to experience something non-physical through physical means, just like seeing. Therefore, soul is pure consciousness. Number 6, aim of life. Experiencing this is what ultimately the aim of life is. Because in this world we get to experience and feel the emotions and thoughts and feelings, and that is the way life makes a mark upon us. Number 7, referring back to the article, "Can mind and soul be related somehow?" The answer would be no. In the article, Jacobson states that mind is an advanced personal processor responsible for perception, reaction, and adjustment in reality. Mind function is influenced by reality and factors, while the soul is independent of all the circumstances. Number 8, soul is not impacted through physical things. Such as human body and its parts would get diseases, or even the mind of a person can be affected throughout the lifetime, for example, memory issues, but the soul remains intact and uninfluenced through the lifespan of a person or being. Number 9 is impact. Souls are considered to be entities which form an impression on others during or after a lifetime. Relating to the quote in this article, which states, I believe we have a soul and would define it as the intensity of the impression we make on others during and after a lifetime. Number 10. Souls do not age. Soul is not affected by time. As discussed earlier, souls are unaffected by physical means, and that also includes the time in and after our lifetime. So, therefore, the conclusion is made in favor of the article.
I am Sayyida Zara Akbar. My opinion goes with option 1. Is it consciousness that empowers us? Because the part where we find ourselves is where consciousness kicks in. For the most part, it's only the consciousness that keeps us aware of the consequences and the fridging benefits. The decisions we take, the troubles we find ourselves in, all comes into the conscious part. The consciousness that empowers us has its different and most valuable roles that shows the level of self-esteem and a great trust in God to understand the difference between animals and humans. Choosing a part of your life and convert that every part into something for the best of you or the surrounding. This conscious role has made and polished human intellectual mindset towards different outcomes. Taking quick decisions, considering situations and dilemmas. Moreover, doctors finding quick solutions to the pandemic has made possible through consciousness. UN, on the basis of human rights, have through consciousness brought peace to many economic collapsing countries. A pure form of vividity is based on your consciousness, how well you pay attention to the specific solutions to your surrounding problems. A past where you find yourself broken, and the present you want to break the chains of relation with past and turn it into the best of your interest, shows how well your consciousness is important to take part in every day-to-day possibility in violational movement. As a matter of fact and truth, through trust in God and self-esteem, greater faith, and a precise, frightening accuracy, you can achieve the higher level of human natural peace within you and around you. Hence, consciousness is a true value of human empowerment, empowering us to great expectations we preserve and desire to bring it on the table. Life gives greater opportunities only when we find it worthwhile and not take it for granted. People see the other side of the road halfway through consciousness. Many do not know what consequences lies ahead, but only through your consciousness you can quickly and swiftly act through and pace out of the consequence. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. If life were predictable, it would cease to be life, and without consciousness, it would be without any colors or flavors.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mariam Akhtar. I am going to discuss about soul. Either the soul does exist or not. Each person is a creation of God, made by God. I believe that we have a soul and would define it as the concentration of impression we make on others during and after our lifetime. The conception of a human life can be considered as the same action of God in taking clay and then forming him into his image and breathing into his nostrils the breath of life, and he become a living soul. Basically, the soul is an idea that has an object as a thing in itself. The soul, in many religious, spiritual traditions and philosophies, it is a separate part of a body which is material and everlasting, part of a living being. It is essential to individual personality or the entire nature of being extensive. We can say that some soul connected to the afterlife. The soul or the core of the human being connected to the mortal to the immortal, ordinary to the great, material to the immaterial, natural to the supernatural. According to Greek philosopher Plato, the soul consists of mind, emotions, and desires. He believed that the soul was eternal and could exist without the body. Aristotle, also following Plato, defined the soul as the core or essence of living being. The soul does not become an object in the sense of saying, I have a soul, but instead it becomes a subject united with reality and separate in the sense of cogito, finite extension, self consciousness, and advanced personal processor called mind. So, the soul as the subject in the dynamic object universe, while previously as an object with cogito potential or the capacity to differentiate in a sufficient manner to become a subject. So, a soul in reality at large, where in turn the soul in soulment evolves in an individual organism's life. Therefore, a soul exists because I exist, soul exists because we exist. That is why I am a soul. Thank you.
My name is Chanda Aslam. I choose option number 1. Is it consciousness that overpowers? As I explained in my bullet points, statement point 1, when we fall asleep, it is only then that we stop the internal chatter and the over voice inside our head leave us in peace until the moment we once awaken. Statement number 2, they are aware like an other animal or in fact relies on its senses to communicate hunger, fear, pain without any alternative to express itself other than making noise, which you as parrot attend to. Point 3, a relative view is consciousness occurs when neurons as different brain region transit to co-activate networks is these. There is a dynamic core of neutral feedback activities that is occurred primarily in the front brain and which can extend to incorporate sensory activity in the region. And point 4, the green region of the network represent neurons that connectivity actively sharing information broadly across the brain to given moment. The global workspace, these neurons would include the dynamic core network and sharing information fragments that compromise conscious experiences might represent activity in the visual cortex that is integrated into global workspace and is therefore consciously perceived. Our neurons processively visual information and entered about brain because of the allocation of attention or the strength of signals never joined with the global network. I would say it can be yes. In point 6, I would say it can be yes. I think that is perfectly possible. We overwhelmed by our consciousness or feelings and sentiments about whatever, as those emotions can be generated subconscious neuron which can focus if we careful, if we were not careful. In the 7th point, yes, consciousness would be normal state of mind. It more likely that emotional our response would overpower us. Someone fear, rage, fight or flight. Etc. Your point 8, your consciousness allow you to create, allowed to be aware of your place in the world, while your consciousness allow you to behave in the world is in moral and socially acceptable ways. Point number 9, a necessity is blind until it becomes consciousness. Freedom is the consciousness of necessity, Karl Marx said. Point 10 is that Consciousness is not the mental image you have about yourself, but without it, you can't have the mental image. It manufactures the self you imagine yourself to be. That's it.
I am Rehan Ahmed. The idea of a soul has fascinated mankind for millennia. Early burial sites suggest ritualized beliefs stretch back 30,000 years or more, and yet here we are still pondering whether there is something more than the physical to the human experience. To answer the question whether soul exists, we must start by defining what a soul is. According to Aristotle, each entity capable of some kind of self-activity contains a soul, which is a body's internal capacity that is sometimes exercised and sometimes not. During Middle Ages, Aristotle's idea was emphasized with the religious view of a personal thought which can die and then be resurrected. Saint Thomas Aquinas, the influential Catholic philosopher, argued that all organisms have soul, but only human souls are immortal. The idea of a life after death is problematic for philosophers. Since we can only justify such a belief, eschatological have the end of things, and therefore a meaningful discussion becomes problematic. As a result, philosophers tend to focus on the idea of the soul as a distinct entity, separate from the body, which is responsible for feeling, thought, and action. In other words, the soul is the non physical mind and is the very essence body tells to be a human being. Plato said that even after death the soul exists and is able to think, but he believed that as body dies, the soul is continually reborn in subsequent bodies. Pythagoras reportedly believed in a sort of reincarnation, that one's soul would occupy another body after death. These were not exclusively human bodies, but rather the bodies of any sort of animal. Pythagoras had the view that all animals had souls. Kant held that our souls fully penetrate our bodies in the sense that one's soul and one's body are located in the same volume of space at the same time. The Australian biologist Jeremy Griffith goes further and suggests that not only is our collective unconscious inherited, but it is in fact a genuinely altruistic instinctive orientation. William James declared that the principle of individuality within us must be substantial, for psychic phenomena are activities, and there can be no activity without a concrete agent. This substantial agent cannot be the brain, but must be something immaterial, that is soul for its activity. Socrates explained to his friends that a true philosopher should look forward to death. The purpose of philosophical life is to free the soul from the needs of the body, since the moment of death is the final separation of soul and body. In theology, the soul is further defined as that part of the individual which partakes of divinity and often is considered to survive the death of body.
My name is Ahmed Jadoon, and my option number is 1. Is it consciousness that overpowers us? And my point states that consciousness is one of the very important functions of the mind. It can even be considered the supreme mental function because it makes us sentient in a special way and differentiates us from present-day artificial intelligence. Without consciousness, no matter how immensely intelligent we are, we will be just another kind of present-day robot, existing in this world without having the awareness and experiences of what it is like to be ourselves, to see the red rose, to hear the music, to feel the tender touch, to feel the happiness, to think of something, and so on in our mind. Consciousness works as a command center or workspace mental process that integrates other mental processes and enables them to function together. Everything we feel in our daily lives is because of the consciousness. Without it, we won't be able to feel things like love for people, happiness, and so on. Without consciousness, there is no self, and when we suffer consciously, whether it's through mental illness or pain. Consciousness has less to do with pure intelligence and more to do with our nature of living and breathing organisms. Consciousness and intelligence are very different things. You don't have to be smart to suffer or to feel joy. You probably just have to be alive. What you experience from moment to moment is completely tied to your consciousness. Every experience you can have cannot exceed your consciousness. Inversely, your consciousness is bound by your experiences, no matter how strange or subjective they might be. Consciousness reveals an important distinction between the brain's processing of information and our experience of that processing. If we didn't have consciousness, nothing in our life would have meaning or value. It gives us ability to feel, think, and function properly. Consciousness determines our will to create reality, and it involves coherence of our mind and heart, which harmonizes the energetic activity of the body to produce desired outcomes. So my points conclude that consciousness overpowers us, and it makes us different than the AI intelligence. If we didn't have consciousness, we would act like the AI intelligence, and we won't be able to feel or make sense of the reality of life itself.
Does a soul exist or not? This is a question that everyone has been asking themselves and everyone since the beginning of time. My name is Marwai Jaz and I am here to present my take on this. So basically, the idea of soul is bound with the idea of future life and our belief in a continued existence after death. This refers to our belief that even if a person's body is dead, their consciousness, their mind still exists and it lives freely. Another way to view this is that soul is considered the incorporeal essence of a person and is said to be the immortal and transcendent of material existence. This connects with the previous point that the soul is a free spirit and it lives freely. Now, when we talk about science, we have generally gotten the idea that science does not believe in soul or spirits, especially in neuroscience. But after the few studies of neuroscience, we have come to see that neuroscience actually believes in soul and its belief has enhanced, suggesting that physical and metaphysical explanations may be used to reflexively as alternative theories for mind. The thing about soul is that the soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Obviously, our mind works all the time and it keeps thinking. The soul knows how to heal itself, but the mind does not. And the awareness, feelings, emotions, and sensations, all those things that make up our consciousness, are related to soul. Yes, the mind does have a part in it, but it is related to soul as well. Now, if we talk about philosophy, many philosophers, basically most of them, have always believed in soul. If we take Aristotle, he said that the soul is the first actuality of a natural body that is potentially alive, meaning that the soul gives the body the strength to act in a certain way. And according to Socrates, he believed that our true main self is our soul. And to quote Plato, he states, just like his teacher Socrates, that soul is our true being, and he strongly supports his existence. And to wrap all of that, most of the philosophers strongly agree with the idea and concept of soul. And according to the famous historian and philosopher Will Durant, he once wrote that the hope of another life gives us courage to meet our own death and to bear with the death of our loved ones. We are twice armed if we fight with faith. Now, in this statement, he beautifully portrays the idea and the concept of life after death, that even after our body is dead, we still have a life to continue, that is, the spiritual life and the life after death. The main purpose of putting the soul into a body is to make a person living, breathing human being. Apart from soul, and if the soul is not put into the body, it is just a dead body. And to put all of that together, We don't have a soul. We are a soul and we have a body.
I am Emmanuel and I'll be explaining how our consciousness overpowers us. Our soul is the power that enlivens the body. This consciousness at the level of soul, independent of our body and mind, is more of our spiritual consciousness. Giving an example, a radio doesn't produce the music that comes through it. But if it is damaged, its ability to transmit the music will be impaired. Similarly, our brain is a receiver which picks the fundamental consciousness that is all around us. And if it is not in its senses, consciousness is automatically altered. Even when we are not doing anything in particular, we will find that our mental processes are still going on. It's thinking casually, it's experiencing light mood, and is perceiving trivial sensations. Our consciousness is a truly puzzling phenomenon. For one, my own consciousness is the only element of my existence I am personally aware of. It is our mind that comprehends the world and its own nature in a detailed manner. It is just because of our consciousness that makes it possible for us to sense the suffering of others, their surroundings, and then responding with altruistic acts. Our mind and its consciousness is more fundamental than the matter of the body, a more subtle, a more fuller expression of fundamental consciousness. As a result, it has the capacity to alter the functioning of our body. So our free will and consciousness are the nexus of the mutual influence of body and soul upon one another. Thus, I respectfully believe that it is our consciousness which allows us to respond, look deeply into different situations, and then setting ourselves free from the chaos of our mind and thus empowering ourselves to keep going in our life.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Umar Nazir and I choose the option number 1. Does the soul exist? So basically there is no specific definition of soul, but in terms of religious and philosophical view, we can tell like it's something we cannot touch or see or feel around us, but it is within us. So, the way we feel, our emotions and actions are a proof that it exists. The existence of soul is basically a belief we have in the life we're living and the one to come. We are not subjecting our physical existence in this. We are just claiming our belief in the idea that there is something within us which allow us to feel, to do things and think. As many theorists reflect the idea of soul without any logical point of view. So some of the examples which make us feel soul exists can be the birth and death of human being, the dreams we see and are fully aware of what we felt in our dreams. In other words, our creative mind which gives us power to feel the spirituality. Spiritual minds say soul is undemolished and it can never fade away. It will stay with us till we die, and even after. On the other hand, the traditionalists completely deny with the existence of soul and they claim soul as an object of human conviction.
I am Rabia Usman, and I would like to conclude the topic by saying, my soul is my consciousness, and my consciousness is my soul. How could a person survive if he has a soul but no conscious, and a sane conscious but no soul? I rather believe that the soul and consciousness are both dependent on each other. They play the submissive part on their own times. A soul could not roam freely, breathe, and exist without a conscious body, just as a conscious mind cannot live without a soul in the body. These two are a unified constituent in our anatomy and intellect, where we discover a desire and musing merge simultaneously. Even our appeasement, opulence, our ecstasy, torment, moreover the possible knowledge of existence and demise. A soul needs a body to survive, and a conscious mind needs a healthy soul to breathe.
I am Sayyida Zara Akbar. I would like to conclude the statement by saying that The universe is not vast enough to engulf the mystery and magnificence of a consciousness of a soul. It is the very perimeter that divides the intellect of atheism and faith, and brings about the clash of resources and wisdom. Science with the time has showered hypotheses to nullify the concept of soul based on the core principle of the existence of proof. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The thriving sense of one's existence as an entity on the planet, behind the facade of bones and flesh, indicates the presence of a soul with a spiritual and deep connection with the surrounding. Grandeur is an idea of soul embodying consciousness relative to the materialistic phenomena in the vicinity of men.
I am Emmanuel, and my conclusion is that me, my joys and sorrows, my memories and ambitions, my sense of personal identity and free will are in fact no more than the behavior of a vast assembly of nerve cells and their associated molecules. Thus, this is our consciousness and soul corresponding together and truly overpowering us and keeping us aware what is actually happening all around us and helping us to stay away from the chaos of our mind and emotions of our heart.